about how much those pilots influence the machine, less about how the machine was only used by those pilots. Hi, this is I'll Explain. This is another I'll Explore where I will explore more of the GP02A Gframe. GP02A's Physalis is one of those famously it is known for having nuclear strike capabilities, but because how the Gundam story lore goes, nuclear strike was very rare. So GP02A have this status of being one of the strongest Gundam out there. It is not an entirely wrong notion, considering it from a lore standpoint, that it is a Gundam with the biggest gun, even for the GB series. GB03D Dendrobium we are not going to talk about for a while because it is hard to get an example in a reasonable size and package, and well, it's okay. Anyways, it is hard to get one on camera for me for now. Let's leave it at that. So at least for a single shot, GB02A with its atomic bazooka is the biggest gun for the Gundam development project at the time and for a while. Anyways, at the same time, its development is not well understood. Maybe it's because the booster binders, maybe it's because of the shield. People kind of miss how it is supposed to be a dome-like Gundam. Like if we cover up the shield and just have the bazooka and the legs, it's very much like a dome. But that looks like Gundam. Oh, let's do it like this. This is kind of dome-like. But that's not what this video is actually about. This video is actually about interesting features of this Gframe that is hard to talk about in my explanation. For example, the beam saber. It is put off to the side, but it is very rarity. It is a rarity for the fact that one, it is a beam saber in slashing motion that Gunplas rarely come with. Is usually preserved as optional parts. Two, it is rare for Gframes to have clear beam blades. So, and it is included for the set, so I ought to show it off. Even though for the explanation it's just off to the side where you can see it. Now, before we get to the main events, I would like to talk about the shield a bit more. I talk about in the video how some shields, like the HG or MG, these sections would have articulations to open up, especially the top and bottom, to lock the barrel in. For the Gframe, it is just a tension fit. And the opening mechanism of the Gframe is as simple as pegs. The shield is super thick. You can see in the video, even lying on the ground, GB02A have trouble keeping it in place. So it is pretty amazing that the Gframe managed to include the barrel storage. And so that's points for Gframe. And yeah, plenty of sculpts at the back of the shield. And yeah, due to the way the handle is designed, it even have trouble, being straight when I lie it on the table. But anyways, the atomic bazooka in this case, the atomic bazooka is very well sculpted, that it even have the locking point shown in the anime. And yeah, it have a support with a simple pack into the backpack, and I'm just going to put it out to show off all of its glorious detail and gimmicks. Yeah, presumably this is a optic A with E-cap for the beam launching sequence. This is the locking point where you can see going together, the hatch where the warhead goes in. Yeah, just very well sculpted on both sides. And the barrel, if you can see it, and the back blast vent. It still have the parting gimmick that you do see in some of the explain video. The two parts. I also want to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the launching sequence. It is not, for those who read a lot of the lore printout, for people who had read some lore printouts, you will note how I described it as arming and sort of propulsion A for the nuclear warhead rocket or nuclear warhead bazooka round, but that's rarely explained. Like in most Gundam manuals or encyclopedia, they just say, oh, this is a bazooka, a launch bazooka round with a nuclear warhead like a Davy Crockett. But in the anime, you can clearly see GP02A shooting a beam out of the atomic bazooka. And that beam goes just, and the nuclear warhead is a very bright ball, very bright orb before it get into position to explode. Now the novelization of Stardust Memory does go into details about how the light is from a laser with energy being contained by an eye field enveloping the nuclear warhead and compressing it to give it more fusion energy. That is where my explanation started from. But as one would, as they rummaging through Minovsky physics, you will find, yeah, when they say laser, they are saying laser induced, then actually having a laser like propelling or proton rockets. They're talking about laser inducing the sequence. And sure, it is possible that GB02, like the atomic bazooka, just have a eye field all prepared for the nuclear warhead to go into, and then have a laser shot in billionths of a second to ignite it. But that's a bit too delicate on military hardware. So for a compromise, I turned it into, a beam. Sure, it's supposed to be laser induced, but that part was rarely brought up, and it's only appear in the novelization that rarely being referenced. So I go for the well understood fusion technology, which is the Minovsky reactor, which uses an I field to contain the fusion reaction. Now that would work to a degree for my explanation of the atomic bazooka, but it's still leaving the problem of arming it. And like I said, if the nuclear warhead themselves have arming devices in them, like a small fission nuclear bomb, like our modern nuclear bombs, it would make them rather easy to be, accidentally detonated. On a mobile suit as thickly armored as GP02A with a big backpack container, it is still rather risky to have a nuclear bomb that can go off by itself. That's why I combine servo Minovsky physics concept together to explain how the atomic bazooka works. Now, our main events, I think, are these. These are fixed arm, but they are not really part of the backpack. They attach the back of GP02 or GP02A, and the backpack is just a shell going on top. This is not how the flexible binder is supposed to be attached, at least from most illustration. For most illustration, there should be a universal joint coming off the side of GP02A's shoulder armor and then into the flexible thruster binder. But for Gframe, they have the same frame for everyone or most Gundams. So instead, they make a unique backpack part to support the flexible binders, which makes them arguably even more flexible, because this is sort of possible for GP02A in other form, like HG or other action figures, but it wouldn't look like that. In fact, we will do a DOM comparison later. This is, just for the flexible binders, this Gframes gimmicks. But yeah, it gives you weird but not unreasonable movements. This also reduces the load of the arms, although the shell is still too heavy for the arm to hold it up straight. Anyways, not the point. This thruster on the back is supposed to be movable like most Gundam main thrusters, but not here. This is just a G-frame. Interestingly though, the nozzle on the far side of the flexible binder is still movable. And this hidden one is, of course, this hidden one is just on one axle. Weird enough, but yeah. Oh, and this attachment is entirely G-frame only. For now, there might be some more illustration based on G-frames, given how, I wouldn't say super well, but it does well enough that Bandai is continuing the line. So I am not surprised if they got more in store for us. This is back to regular binder close mode, atomic bazooka by itself of the let's talk about before I finish, let's talk about the atomic bazooka mount. It comes off the flexible thruster binder mount here, and it have a swivel on the peg, so you can actually peg the bazooka in the storage mode. Well, in the storage mode like you usually see on most other form or media, with the barrel off and store in the shield. I just remembered I forgot to record how I did not mention Go or Anavagato in the pilots of GP01 and GP02A. It is the matter of style. I'm trying to keep the I'll explain video in a more impartial or focusing on the machines themselves, talking about the fictional history, technology, and usage of them, the lore of them without the pilots. Largely, obviously there will be some things like the course of the story would change without those pilots, but the Gundam's performance or the mobile suit's performance would not be affected by most of them too much. The exception would be things like all pilots like Cha, New Gundam, and Sinanju and Full Frontal. Cha with his many customized mobile suits. Some of them is just personal colors, but a lot of them do go through some modification beyond even commander type or prototype. And for the case of Jugog, it is a hand in its development. So I ought to talk about him there. For New Gundam, it is designed by Amuro. It was piloted by Amuro, and is only 5 involved Amuro. So it's hard to talk about it without talking about Amuro Ray. Same goes for Sinanju. I did mention how it have an accident blue on blue while not being piloted by Full Frontal, but it largely in the Laplace conflict was used by Full Frontal. Meanwhile, sure, Go and Gato was instrumental in how GB01 and GB02 performed during the last rebellion or the last fleet rebellion, but the machine's performance is not as influenced by them as the others I had mentioned. I think the other case is F91. While the base model F91 was only known to be piloted by Seabook, but there are also other variants, and most of the information on that video apply to those variants as well. Sure, when I get my hands on a Harrison or a Fido, I will talk about those. For the Harrison, I would talk about Harrison, and for the Fido, I would. So yes, it is about how much those pilots influence the machine, less about how the machine was only used by those pilots. This part may be included in my explore video, or it will be its own video, or I probably chopped the middle bit into a shot. Thanks for watching.